have done it. 6-4, 3-6, and 7-5 as Jan Michael Gamble and Travis Parrott win this doubles championship. A very happy
Well, it's pretty amazing, especially it's a funny story. The first part of that first day, I had lost my singles match and wasn't in a great mood. So I went back to the hotel room to try to chill out a little bit, take a little rest, and I called the tournament and said, "What's the match schedule status, and should I come right now?" And they said, "No, take it easy and come back and come over in like an hour." So that's what I did. I'm on the way there and I get a phone call, and they said, "Where are you?" And I'm pretty close. I said, "Well, you got 10 minutes to get here. You're on the clock." I'm like, "What?" On the clock, and so I tell the driver, and he just books and goes as fast as he can. I end up getting there, and I made it by like 3 minutes to spare, or for default. Started out great, and we took it from there. Win the tournament. It's pretty funny that we could have been almost defaulted and may have never really played after that. The thing that I would really want the most in my professional life is to go out there and for 2 whole weeks play unbelievable at Slam and get the job done, and on that final Sunday and have the trophy. That'd be the most amazing thing that happened for me. Well, I think when tennis is over, I'm going to have to make a decision on what I want to do. I haven't really decided that yet. I'd enjoy getting into acting, but once again, I think it's equally tough to tennis, and it takes a lot of luck. A lot of luck that in tennis you can actually do. There's not as much luck involved. You go out there, you win or you lose. In acting, you kind of got to catch the eye of different people and hope you get an inroad here or there, and it's tough. So, and I don't want to live in LA. I don't want to leave this. I won't leave this. So, how to make those decisions then. Hi. Everybody's always been so respectful of the cars, so that they flower and lose their leaves.
Hey, can I take a picture with you?
All right.
Come on, man. Rules.
That's awesome. Awesome.
For everything tennis, keep it here on the Tennis Channel.
Growing up in Southern California, she was surrounded by some of tennis's greatest legends. At just 18, Alexandra Stevenson burst onto the scene, becoming the first woman qualifier in history to reach the semifinals of Wimbledon. She was People Magazine's Breakthrough Athlete of 1999 and Tennis Magazine's Rookie of the Year. In a young career that has already seen a top 20 ranking and Fed Cup play under Billie Jean King, what's next for Alexandra Stevenson? Find out now on Center Court. Hi, I'm Chris Myers, and welcome to Center Court. Thanks for being with us. Our guest, the only woman qualifier to reach the semifinals of Wimbledon. She's been ranked among the top 20 players in the world. Let's welcome Alexandra Stevenson to the show. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, too.
Thanks for coming by. We're going to talk fashion later because I know you like fashion.
Okay.
But this is an interesting ensemble here. How do you, when your day starts and you're not playing, how do you pick your clothes?
Well, it's my tribute to Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
I love
California,
Disneyland, California.
You ever get bored with the tennis outfits that are on tour? Is there a way
well, you do get bored after a while if you're wearing the same thing for about a couple months. And I always look at fashion magazines and I wish I could change a dress into something tennis wearable. And I have a lot of ideas, but nobody listens to me.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. When I win my Grand Slam, they'll listen.
All right, see, now that's the attitude. Now, hey, coming out of high school, as we mentioned, getting to the semifinals at age 18.
And very young.
Yeah, not having really been ready for all that, right? I mean, now that you look back a few years, are you amazed that you were able to get that far that quickly?
I think I was kind of innocence and youth, and I just was having a blast, and I was having a fun time at Wimbledon, my favorite tournament, and it was my dream, and I got to the semis. My dream's to win it, so I didn't get there. But I think if I had won it, I wasn't prepared. So.
Right. What were you thinking, Alexandra, going through that? Did you realize what you were doing, or were you just more like,
no,
hey,
I was
this
just
is
playing. I made a deal with my mom. I was going to go to UCLA and to play for their team and Stella Sampras, and I think she's still upset to this day that I didn't
She
go.
thought you weren't going to go there.
Yes, and I made a deal, with her. I said, well, if I win Wimbledon or get to the semis and equal John McEnroe's record, then I'm not going to go to UCLA. I'm going to turn pro. And my mom said okay, and Stella Sampras said okay, and I don't think they believed me. And I just went all the way through, and I said, okay, I'm a professional. I checked the box professional at qualifying because I just knew I was going to do it. And my mom was a little upset then that I did that. But she let me just go through the week, and I got all the way through. But I didn't get out of going to school.
Yeah.
I'm still in school.
You're still studying.
I got out of UCLA.
and where, Colorado?
Yes, University of Colorado. I'm going online, and sometimes it's a big drama because when you're in Europe and your computer breaks down because the plugs don't fit right, or somebody bangs your computer at the airport, then you call up and you're like, I'm in Europe, I'm in Germany, please give me an extension. So.
Now, can that get in the way of your tennis, or is it a nice diversion for you?
It's nice. It is hard. It's hard to balance because sometimes you come back from working out and training or playing a match, and you play a night match and it's 11 o'clock at night and you have a paper due the next day. I get through. It's good to expand your mind when you're in a hotel room. That's
right, to make the time pass. We're going to talk about your mom, Samantha, who is your coach, works with you, of course, on the road and from day one. But I think she thought it was important that you, through high school, you had a normal kind of, you went to class, you graduated, none of this going off to tennis academy.
No, I wasn't a little tennis girl.
Are you happy about that?
Oh, yeah. I gave up the French Open to go to prom and my graduation.
Wow, that's a tough decision to make.
That was senior year. I was 90. I just got into the French by 1, and I said, I don't want to go to the French. I'm going to my prom. I have a Cynthia Raleigh dress, and I'm going to wear it. And so I went, I had a blast, and I had a lot of fun, and I did all the dances, and I wanted to be a cheerleader, but because of tennis, I couldn't. But I got to play one in a school play.
Right, and you dance, right? You still dance?
Yes, I go to dance classes and voice lessons.
Now,
I still do that.
when you went to Wimbledon, did you the money from that? Did you buy a car? Is that accurate?
No,
what did you do with
I wish I
cash?
could have. I got my house in Florida.
No, that's not bad.
I got a little villa, a 3-bedroom villa, and I was able to invest it. And I made a good real estate move because then I was able to move back to LA.
You're doing a lot of things for somebody who's in her early 20s.
Well, yeah, it's nice because all my friends they actually graduated this year, so it's kind of weird because I'm still in college and they're all done. And they're just trying to decide what to do. And it's funny because I'm redoing my house and I'm talking about bathrooms and, okay, I need to win this tournament to buy a faucet or a door or to get French doors. And my friends are like, oh, I need to go do an internship, and oh, my boyfriend's bothering me, or where should I live? I need a roommate, and so it is different.
A little bit of an adjustment. I want to ask you about boyfriends, and if you have time to work that. And we're going to take a break. We're talking with Alexandra Stevenson. We will talk tennis, her all-court game, and how that is developing when we continue here with Alexandra on Center Court. Don't go away.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month with a look at the life and times of Althea Gibson.
Althea Gibson's remarkable story began on the streets of Harlem. This is where she picked up the game she loved, tennis, becoming a girls' champion by age 15. But Althea's tennis roots were not the only ones she planted here. Harlem was also the place Althea learned to sing, play saxophone, and where she forged lifelong friendships with musician Buddy Walker and middleweight champion Sugar Ray Robinson that would shape her life forever. In 1950, Althea Gibson would make history by breaking the tennis color barrier. She would go on to be the first black player to win the French Open, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Championships. She became a celebrated American hero, but after winning her second consecutive U.S. Championship in 1958, Althea stunned the world by retiring from tennis. While this was the end of one career, it was just the beginning of much more for Althea Gibson. She wrote her autobiography, I Always Wanted to Be Somebody, in 1958. The following year, Althea Althea Sings and performed on The Ed Sullivan Show. She would then be cast in the John Wayne Western, The Horse Soldiers. In 1963, Althea would embark on her second professional sports career, golf. For the next 14 years, Althea Gibson would play in 171 LPGA tournaments. But the crowning moment in her glorious life would bring her back to her first love, tennis. In 1971, Althea Gibson was inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month by honoring tennis legend Althea Gibson.
Picture a day in the life of your favorite tennis pros. No Strings is your connection to all the players off the court action. Tag-alongs the Tennis Channel takes you up in their private jets, on exclusive home tours, and much, much more. Alexandra Stevenson hopes the nagging injuries of 2003 become a distant memory with her all-new training program. Alexandra Stevenson, No Strings, only on the Tennis Channel.
Hey, I'm James Blake, and you're watching the Tennis Channel.
Welcome back here on Center Court. We're talking with Alexandra Stevenson, and we touched on your mom, Samantha, who's your coach. The story true that when you were a kid watching television and Martina Navratilova came on and talked about some young girl some other day having...
Won her 9th Wimbledon.
Yes.
Yeah, she came on, and they interview, you know, Bud Collins goes, and I don't know if it's Bud, I can't remember, I was only 9.
Probably, he's been around
Probably
forever.
Bud.
Yes.
And when you go through into the lounge with the winners, and you go up and interview, and she said, well, someday there's going to be a little girl out there that's a serve volleyer and is going to win Wimbledon. And I went, hey, Mom, that's going to be me. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm working on the serve volley. It takes a little longer than a baseline game.
Yeah, the all-court game, right.
A little bit more difficult.
Historically, that develops, and it
Yeah.
seems like are the powers in tennis less patient with the all-court game players? If,
the power? What do you mean the
in
power?
terms of endorsements or people to support?
They're very impatient. They like the young 16-year-old that's blonde.
That just powers.
Right there, I have it stacked against me. But I can beat the odds. But it's hard when you start serve volleying. It's like a train wreck, and you're just all over the place, and the movement's different, and it's really physical, and it's a process.
And coming to the net more aggressive,
yes,
right?
coming to the net more aggressive.
And how do you know when?
Getting into that, how do you know when? There's a lot of questions, and then you go out there and you can't think about it, because if you think about it, then you're going to be like, well, when do I hit this? And there goes the ball. It's already gone.
So it has to be instinctive.
It has to be totally instinctive, and you have to use your legs, and you have to have a lot of power
And the one
in your legs.
The one-handed backhand, right?
Yes, I have a one-hand backhand, and that's a little different too. Not that many girls have one-hand backhands, and to be a great serve volleyer, you have. I mean, I think you should have a one-hand backhand. If you look at all the great serve volley players, they're all court players. They have one-hand backhand.
And the serve, you're proud of your serve. It's a big serve. I don't think you get enough credit for
yeah,
that.
It's a good serve. I think once I start winning, I'll get more credit.
Well, what is it? Well, let's put that together here as you try and package the winning and to get you back to that almost that naive time when you rolled in.
I think I was just, when I was 18, I was just hitting the ball, and no one knew who I was. And there's no secrets out there. Once you get on the tour, everybody knows everything. And the way that you win is how you execute. And the difference with me and with Serena, who's #1, is she's executed. And I just haven't gotten to the point where I've executed for the whole 2 sets or the whole 3 sets. And the execution is getting better.
And you first, held the racket age 3?
I was 3. I just held her. I used to like to sit in the basket with all the balls.
You remember that?
Yeah, I have a picture of me, and Angel Lopez was my one of my first coaches, and he used to put me in the basket, and I used to throw balls at him.
Your mom kind of brought you along to play tennis.
She put me in my first tournament, the Harper Inc. tournament in San Diego.
How old were you?
I was 9, and Maureen Connolly, it was called the Maureen Connolly Plate, because she was from San Diego, and I really wanted the plate. The winner got this big plate. I thought it was big. It was probably like this big. And I just thought it was so cool. And I got all the way to the finals, and I lost to Allison Bradshaw, who was the #1 junior in San Diego. And her mother, Valerie Ziegenfuss, had played on the tour, so she was a big name. I was very upset. I cried because I got the little plate. And I went to my mom, I'm never losing again, which is wrong because you lose through life. And
Right.
on the
That's-
court, you lose,
yes.
you win and you lose. And, but I never did lose to Allison Bradshaw.
Oh, that took care of it.
That was it, and I did get the plate the next year.
And you've had influence.
And after that, I wanted to play.
And then, yeah, you said this, I'm hooked on
That's
this.
what I wanted, yeah.
You've been around some great names in tennis,
Yeah.
Billie Jean King, Bobby Riggs, actually.
Fortunately, because my mom was a sports writer for so many years, and she did the last story on Bobby Riggs, and she did McEnroe and Connors, the only story with John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, and she dragged me to it. I didn't want to go
Oh, yeah?
because I was being petulant. I was 14. So I went and I got all dressed nice in a cute little skirt. I still remember the outfit I had on, and sat on Pebble Beach on the 9th hole and watched those two be interviewed.
How did they react to you, or did you have a chance
Oh, they didn't care about me. I was just in the
to
corner.
take and say, hey, that could be me one day, kind of talking?
Not really, because I was more interested in their interactions with each
Okay.
other, because you could tell they didn't like each other, but they respected each other. And it was just interesting that my mom got them to talk, because
Yes.
Jimmy Connors sat there and he didn't want to talk to her. And so my mom told him a story about when my mom was a young reporter at Forest Hills, and she was like in her 20s, and she was drinking iced tea, and this lady sat down and she started talking to my mom, and it was Gloria Connors.
Wow.
And my mom didn't know it, and they were just talking about life and how to raise a kid in tennis, and my mom wasn't even going to have a kid. And it was just interesting how it turned around years later. I'm 14 and my mom's interviewing Jimmy, and so she told him the story, and then he immediately lit up. And he was, anything about his mother. He was very attentive to my mom. He loved my mom after that.
The greatness at an early age will continue with Alexandra Stevenson. She's made tennis on the court and also off the court regarding a flag. We'll address that when we come back here on Center Court. Don't go away.
How about 24/7? ATPtennis.com. News that's hot, on and off the court. Want draws, scores, and player profiles? It's all there. Find TV times and links to tournaments worldwide. Want some courtside seats? Or how about ATP equipment, publications, or apparel? It's just a click away at ATPtennis.com. It's ATP Tennis, anytime you want it, 24/7.
What's all the racket about? It's all about the Tennis Channel.
Welcome back to Center Court. We're talking with Alexandra Stevenson and some of the great names that she's been around in tennis, even at an early age. Bobby Riggs, he did things to motivate you a little bit in the tennis
Yes,
game, right?
he was always looking for the next con.
Crazy guy.
He loved betting, and so he used to put $100 bills under these cones, and he would give me these drills and try to hit them. And of course, I never could hit them because he always rigged it.
And the idea was, rigged, that if you hit the cone with...
if you hit the cone, you'd get the $100.
Okay.
And I thought that was the best. And I never did get $100.
So he kept you going. And
kept me going.
Billie Jean King with the Fed Cup, I know that you
Yes,
spent
I
some
just
time.
spent a week with her and Gina Garrison, and she's just an amazing person. She's so knowledgeable, and she helped me with my volleys all week, which who better than that to have the best serve and volley player out there.
Let's go back with Billie Jean for over the years, and she's kind of like her own kind of person. You seem like somebody who likes to do things her own way. What other things did you take from
Well,
Billie?
I always ask her questions and what she did when she was on the tour and how she stood up for herself. And interesting thing was she told me she when she was younger, she never was the leader. She got pushed in the position. She didn't really want to do it. And then when she got pushed in the position, she stood up and she said, okay, I can do this. And it's just nice to spend some time with somebody that's been in the position and has been number one. And has won Grand Slams, and you can ask her what you did in the first round of Wimbledon. She said she was always nervous, and she always had 3-set matches.
And with your game, based on things you take from people and the coaching, how have you altered your training or adjustment to kind of get a little better?
Well, I've altered my training a lot.
In what way?
Just with movement and explosive power and using my butt.
Okay, really? J-Lo, for some reason she came to mind. I know you're a big fan of Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
I don't know what kind of tennis player she is.
She uses her butt in other ways.
Yes, and she does rather well. So how do you use your backside in tennis?
In serve volley, Billie Jean was teaching me this, and she said she had a big butt, and it was strong, and to get down, you have to use your butt. And I haven't really been using my butt. I've been using my legs or my arms, anything but my butt. And I do have kind of a big butt, so it'd be good if I could use it.
Use it to your advantage.
So I'm trying to use it to my advantage now.
All right, wow, that's something. If we had videotape, we could break this down, but maybe the next time we have it.
Maybe the next time.
And her game obviously developed a little later, the kind of all-court serve and volley.
Her game and Martina Navratilova, who she taught.
Do you have a time frame for some of the majors that you've talked about winning?
Well, I did when I was young. I was like, oh, after Wimbledon, I was like, I'm going to go win Grand Slams. Because I was thrown in the spotlight and everyone expected me to, and boy, was I wrong.
So it's a lot more difficult.
Now it's just getting past the first round, at least at the U.S. Open this year, and then I always look to win it, but now it's not a time frame, it's just a matter of when.
When the expectations in '99 hit, right, from the outside, what were they in your own mind?
Oh, I just expected to win everything.
Really?
I was pretty confident, and then I went on the court. Yeah, and not really spoiled. It's just you were confident. You're like, I did this, and only John McEnroe did this, and I'm great.
Right.
And it's easy. And that was the first time I ever went away to play a tournament. And then the whole summer I was on center court playing these girls that wanted to kill me, literally.
Really?
And I just got beaten up, and your body gets beaten up. I never trained right. I was just out of high school. I'd go to school, play tennis for an hour.
Right.
Then you're trying to train, you're playing matches, they're beating your body up, you're traveling.
And having your mom as your coach, can that sometimes be too much, or is that easy to separate?
I think it was, well, I had a lot of people, I went through like 12 coaches after that, because everyone said you needed a coach. And they were wrong, because my mom knows my game the best, and these coaches hadn't grown up with me, and they were smart, but they didn't know my game. And so I kind of, after 12 times, I said, that's enough. And I went back to my mom and a hitting partner. And she's my blood, so she's going to protect me, she's going to look out for me, and she's going to tell me if I'm doing something wrong, even if I tell her to be quiet.
Yeah, you can give her a little.
She's watching me, so she knows, and she's only there to help me. She's not there to advance her salary or to advance her position.
All right, well, we'll talk more about the developing game of Alexandra Stevenson and when she took a stand with the Confederate flag in South Carolina, but played on. We'll have that when we come back here on Center Court with Alexandra Stevenson. Don't go away.
For years, there's only been one way to go for internet service. The same companies charging the same high prices, even as technology costs go down. Ready for something new? With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for only $10.95 a month, with no banner ads on your welcome page. Go to peoplepc.com now to try our service free for 30 days and compare us with your current ISP. People PC Online has more local access numbers than AOL, plus a smart dialer that automatically chooses the fastest, most reliable number, so you always get the best connection. That's why so many of our members recommend us to family and friends. People PC Online gives you a better internet experience at a lower price. To compare us free for 30 days, visit peoplepc.com for a 3-minute download of our easy-to-use software, or call 1-800-782-3251. People PC Online, a better way to internet.
The
20th NASDAQ 100 Open, March 24th through April 4th in Miami. For tickets, call 305-442-3367 or visit the web, NASDAQ-100open.com.
See you there. Hey America, we're fired up. There's finally a channel devoted just to tennis, 24/7, all the time.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month with a look at the life and times of Arthur Ashe.
When they start ranking players, whether in the men or the women, the juniors, the various age categories, there's only room in the top 10 for 10. That means that they have to realistically set their aspirations and goals, and that just because they may, at age 11 or 12, have wanted to be a professional player, and they find out realistically that age 16 or 17 it ain't going to happen. But there are a lot of things that they could have learned in the interim. Maybe they did win a scholarship to a college, and maybe the college is, say, as good as a place like Penn or Stanford or UCLA or Columbia.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month by honoring tennis legend Arthur Ashe.
I'm Dan Michael Gamble, and you're watching the Tennis Channel.
Welcome back here at Center Court. Thanks for staying with us. We're talking with Alexandra Stevenson, and it was 2000 in South Carolina, an event at Hilton Head, and some of the top women players who are African-American would not participate because of the flag of South Carolina, the state flag having the emblem of the Confederate flag. And you said, well, I want to play, but I don't like what this stands for.
Yes, I wanted to play the tournament because I felt it was, I always in life, my life lessons my mom has taught me is you face problems head on and you go to the source and try to change it. And so I felt if I went there, a lot of black people live in South Carolina and they work there every day. They're not going to move because of that. And so I thought if I went there and if I talked to them about it and told them my view being, I was 18 then, I was young, 18, 19, a person in my generation thinks differently than in his generation or the generations before that created the flag. And so I figured if I went there and talked to him and maybe I could talk to the Senate, which didn't happen, but I did talk to the governor.
The governor, right.
And so I drove 4.5 hours to Columbia from Hilton Head, and I had a match next day, so that probably wasn't the smartest thing, but it was important, and we had this whole discussion. He was a great man, and
ultimately, what did they do?
He wanted the flag to come down too, but he had to get it passed.
Right. Should we point out? I mean, your mother is white. Your father is African American.
Yeah, I'm mixed. So I grew up in high school in La Jolla,
and didn't really see color.
I didn't see anything, and none of my friends saw anything. So, and I had a great cross cultures teacher, and he taught us a lot about South Carolina and the South and the flags, and so we talked about it, and I said, well, it has to come down, and I understand it's a part of history, and some of the people that are way back when their grandfathers died for this, and they're right to say it's a part of history, but they're wrong to fly it today.
Right.
It's 2000. It was 2000 back then. And I said it's ridiculous because people my age would all say to take it down.
And so they ended up moving it so you could play.
He agreed with me, and so he said he was going to talk to them, and so I guess he talked to everybody, and they ended up moving it to the back. Over the Confederate soldiers' graveyard, which I thought was a better move.
Yeah, at least
people complained, but it was much better because it was the Confederate soldiers and there was the Confederate flag.
It represented that.
And if it can't go anywhere, it should go there.
Before we wrap things up, dating. Do you have, you're at an age, do you have time? Have you had time to work it in with all that you're doing?
Well, I haven't found anybody yet.
Okay, so.
Well, if I do, then I'll try to work it in.
All right, what are you gonna look for?
I have a whole off season, November and December.
Does he have to like tennis? Or
No, he can't have anything to do with tennis.
Oh, okay.
No tennis players, no coaches, no trainers, no agents. Just nice.
Just somebody to hang out with.
A little taller than me, six-pack.
Okay.
Athletic.
Oh, so go for the physical thing.
Yeah, athletic. He has to be smart and funny.
Okay.
And he has to know how to dance.
All right, smart, funny, and dance. All right, and no tennis. And in terms of your career going from here, what kind of guidelines, what kind of specific track are you on?
I just started really playing my game, and I feel comfortable, and who knows, I think 10 years will be good.
Okay.
And then after that, I plan on going into acting.
Well,
I've
okay.
taken film and acting, and I've always wanted to go to Yale School of Drama, so that's why I'm getting my undergrad degree out of the way, or NYU Film School or USC Film School.
And if you were in charge of tennis,
yes,
right, for a day, I know you can't. What's the first thing you would do?
Well, the first thing I would do, I would try to get it out there more to a top sport, because right now it's way down on the totem pole, and I think I would promote more players than the players that are at the top. I'd promote like top 30 players, maybe get people more interested, because in football you promote a lot of players.
Yes.
In baseball you know a lot of baseball players. In basketball you know mostly all the basketball players. In tennis you know maybe 10. So people still come up and say, "Oh, do you play with the big girls?" And I say,
"You are a big girl."
I say no. I don't play with the big. I try to like pull their chain a little because it gets old.
Well, you seem to have fun with it. You're a delight to talk to.
Thanks
for bringing a lot of energy. It's great to watch you play. We wish you a lot of luck and hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun. Alexandra Stevenson. All right, thanks a lot. We appreciate her being with us here on the center court. I'm Chris Myers. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
In celebration of Black History Month, we're saluting Althea Gibson, Arthur Ashe, and Zena Garrison. The Tennis Channel, home to past history, present stars, and future legends.
You're watching On Court with USPTA. My name is R.J. Tessier, and I'm the Director of Certification and Testing for the United States Professional Tennis Association. Today we'll be learning the fundamentals of the overhead. Here to help us today with our lesson is one of the world's top men's 60s and over player, Jim Parker.
Now, the overhead's a fun shot, and you're going to need it if you're going to come to the net for anything other than picking up balls and shaking hands with your opponent. Especially if you're a doubles player, you're going to need the overhead because you can't afford for you being at the net and the opponent's throwing up a lob, for that lob to be a safety valve that they can always escape. And if your overhead's weak, that's exactly where they're going to feel. They don't have to pass you if they know that they can always put the ball up over your head and you're going to wimp out or miss it. So what we want you to do is to really be able to build on what you know already about serving. When you serve, the motion is very similar. Actually, I think the overhead's a lot easier because you don't have to serve from behind the baseline and you can put the ball anywhere on the court. So don't you think you could hit a few aces if you come in here to hit your serve? So that's the way we want you to think of it. That's one thing that the name really implies, is an overhead smash. And we want you to make it into a smash, have you enjoy hitting it, become more accurate, and maybe even be lethal with it. Okay, so let's get started making our overhead more powerful, more accurate, more lethal, more consistent, and all that good stuff. We've got Shirley Mendoza here again with us. Thanks for coming again.
Nice to be here.
And we're going to talk first about the way you hold the racket when you hit an overhead. It's really not a big deal because when you're at the net and you've got your volley grip, which we tend to call a continental, puts the knuckle of your index finger along that top bevel on your right if you're a right-hander. It's a fairly neutral grip that you can use for both backhand volley, forehand volley, and fortunately overhead also. So this is a lot of times the same grip you've used for serve. When you're at the net, is that pretty close to what you've got here? The only thing I would say is, since it's not that important to get spin on an overhead, the overhead is a much flatter shot than a serve is, for instance. It's okay to move it a little bit toward what we'd call a forehand, so you're basically just flattening the racket out a little bit at the contact point, but not a big deal, whatever the preference that you have is. But what is important is your position relative to the net and the service line and to your opponent. So let's just say this, when you start at the net, I think that this distance right here, a little bit closer to the service line than to the net, is better, simply because what you're trying to do is balance
your ability to go back and cover a lob with your ability to close out volleys when you're being aggressive at the net. So if you were to get up here, what would be the problem?
You're too close to the net and you're too susceptible for a lob.
So you're a little lobbable. Right. And also, I mean, you know, you're going to look great as a volleyer, but no smart player is going to give you a volley to hit. On the other hand, you'll see a lot of players, they come to the net, but they play the net from here. Okay, now they're doing a great job of covering lobs, but they're not doing a real good job with balls coming down low, and they're not getting as much angle and so on. So where we are right here, I think, is sort of a good starting point. Now, if you play somebody or a team that never lobs, then I would definitely move in another step. If I'm playing a team and they're consistently getting the ball over our heads, I would say maybe back up a little bit, not a lot. All right, and as far as ready position, you're in the same position that you'd be if you know you're going to get a volley, so take this position. And now I think that's because most of the time when you hit a lob, you've had to move back. You know, their job is to get the ball over your head. Your first move is not unlike a football quarterback. He takes the snap from center, makes the initial move, gets that ball in position, ready to throw. Watch the similarity. Here I am at the net, the lob goes up, I go back. Now notice that my movement is with a running step here and not just a shuffle and not backing up, you know, where it's I could hit my head when I trip. So let's see you go through the whole sequence. Make a split step. Let's say somebody lobs over your head, make that initial turn. Good. Now, your job becomes one of getting under the ball so that the ball is hittable. And what I'm going to do is, I want you to move to the center a little bit. And I want you to, in this case, go back in what we call our trophy position. And I want you to have your left hand up, and I want you, instead of hitting the ball this time, just let it fall into your hand. So let's say a ball went there. Your job is to get under it. Perfect. Let's say the ball comes right to you, not a whole lot of movement required. Let's say the ball came even over to this side. Don't hit it on a backhand, get ready to hit a forehand. So we want you hitting an overhead on every shot that you can. So that what we're doing is we're optimizing position so that she gets maximum power and control by literally being able to put the ball in the way of her swing.
We'll have more in the overhead after this short break. Remember, keep that head up when hitting those smashes. We'll see you back on court.
3 basic elements of the game that you must always remember. Move your feet. Keep your eye on the ball. And always play with Pro Pen. Pro Pen tennis ball. It's the only ball that matters.
Use all the energy your swing generates. What you put into it is what you get out of it. Head, liquid metal, pure energy, perfect power.
So again, let's take a look at some of the most common problems people have with those overheads. Let's watch. Our first common problem occurs when players let the ball drop too low at contact. Notice how on the left there is a good extension of the hitting arm up to the point of contact. On the right, the ball drops too low, resulting in a bent elbow and loss of power. Remember, as the ball is dropping, it is gaining speed, so be sure to swing early and extend fully. Our second common problem occurs when players don't properly use the non-dominant hand to track the ball. Notice how on the left, the player points to the flight of the oncoming ball, which helps keep the non-hitting shoulder and head up. And on the right, the non-dominant hand is dropped. In our next clip, we notice how the player has made a good unit-turn versus the player facing the net. The turn of the shoulders and trunk helps initiate the source of power, and without a good turn, players tend to hit the ball just using their arm.
Okay, we've got Shirley so she's ready to hit her overhead. We've got her in the trophy position, that little figure that sits on top of some tennis trophies. Left hand's up, racket head is up, and what I want to emphasize here is that the knuckles are on top of the handle. You'll see a lot of players, and when they get ready for an overhead, they'll kind of drop down into here, so that in effect the racket then is on top of their hand, and they're not going to get a good wrist snap. So when you went back, that was good. Now we're ready to hit, and we're going to talk a little bit about the kinetic chain. The kinetic chain is much like it is on the serve. When we take our racket back, most of the time we take it in a little bit more abbreviated fashion when we're hitting an overhead. But beyond that, it's going to be the legs, the hips, the torso, the shoulders, and arm and racket coming through. So if you would, make that kinetic chain somewhat seamless. See if you can do this in slow motion and kind of pretend that you're actually hitting an overhead. But I'd like for you to kind of go through slowly what you do, and I'll try to keep up with you so that we can kind of see the links in the chain. Okay, ball's going up, moves back, get the legs turned, the hips are turned, torso's ready to swing, racket's coming through, contact at the top and all the way through and finish on the left foot. That's great. Now, it's actually easier to do it with a ball, so that's coming next. But what we want to emphasize is there are probably two different alternatives as far as what you encounter when you hit an overhead. In some cases, overheads are hit from a standing position. In other cases, they're hit while you're jumping back. We're going to start off with the overhead where you're standing, and in this case, it's much like a serve, and we want to see how seamlessly you can put these links together to create effortless power, okay? Ball's going up, contact at the top. Great job. Again, contact at the top. Now, we didn't really emphasize enough, probably, that when you hit the ball, you want that racket right there at the contact. And so all we're going to do is I'm going to feed you a lob, and I'm just going to look and see whether your arm truly straightens or not. That's it. And do it again and make solid contact. Now this time I want you to go ahead and let it come through, and we're going to emphasize in this case the looseness of the wrist so that when you hit a ball, your wrist is nice and rubbery, and that's a nice source of power. Great. Now, one thing that some players do is that I think that they don't bring that racket down their back low enough. When you hit your overhead, how low do you think your racket's dropping in back?
About mid-back.
Okay. Now, if you wanted more power, would it be possible for you to make a deeper loop?
Yes.
I don't know. Let's try it.
Maybe.
Let that racket drop. Good job. Now, I think that you're going to be able to see if you're looking, and maybe even a slow motion camera could pick this up, but we'd like to see maybe even that racket drop below your waist. Let's see. Okay. Now, the other contingent that we mentioned was that in some cases, the lob is so good that you're going to actually have to move back and jump, in which case you're going to use a little hang time, and your footwork looks like this. When you go back, you're going to take off of your right foot and land on your left. Now, that's the same weight transfer that you have when you hit a standing overhead, where again you start on the right, go to the left. In this case you're moving back the other way, but again it's right to left. That little scissors kick, little kick of the feet there, is what keeps you balanced. So this time I'm going to give you a lob. It's going to be over your head, and I want to see you use a little hang time. Great jump. Okay, do it again and bring that ball down a little bit more. Hit this ball exactly like you're hitting a standing overhead. The swing should be the same speed. You shouldn't temporize at all. You're still trying to hit a good aggressive shot. That's great. So what we've done with Shirley more than anything else is emphasize things that we already know. We already know how to throw. We already know how to use the kinetic chain. And when you apply all that to a contact point at the top with a nice loose wrist, you're really beginning to get the feel of effortless power.
Jimmy, I felt a lot of people don't hit the overhead well because they really don't get into proper position. Maybe you can explain a little bit how to get set up for that shot?
You know, there are different ways to get back. One of them is, you know, this kind of shuffle where you're liable to hit your head. And then there's a kind of a gallop where you're kind of sidestepping. But I really prefer just the fluidity of getting back like that, where you're crossing over like the football quarterback does.
Right. Be sure to stay with us. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Probably pretty good at ping pong. But can you do this? Or this? If you want to learn how to play competitive table tennis, learn from U.S. Olympians Wei Wong and Sean O'Neill. Never lose to your buddies at work again. This highly acclaimed program teaches you all the basics you need to know. Every stroke is shown from several angles, in slow and stop motion. Clear instructions and 3D animation make it easy to understand. Call 1-800-500-5057 or go to alphatabletennis.com to get your video or DVD.
Like the Audi A4 1.8T, the Saab 9.3 Sports Sedan has 4 doors. But that's where the similarities end. The Saab has more horsepower, more torque, and more cargo room. The Saab 9.3 Sports Sedan. Welcome to the state of independence.
Right now, get 0 down and 0 due at signing during the Saab Sign and Drive sales event. Ends March 1st.
perfecting your strokes, developing a game plan, gaining the confidence to win the next time you step on the court. To be your best, call on the best. Take a lesson from a USPTA certified teaching pro. They stay on the cutting edge of teaching and playing as members of the world's most respected organization of tennis teachers. So get better, faster. Contact the U.S. Professional Tennis Association to find a certified pro near you.
When playing tennis, there are three basic elements of the game that you must always remember. Move your feet. Keep your eye on the ball. And always play with Pro Pen. Pro Pen tennis ball. It's the only ball that matters.
Picture a day in the life of your favorite tennis pros. No Strings is your connection to all the players off the court action. Tag along as the Tennis Channel takes you up in their private jets, on exclusive home tours, and much, much more. On Karina Murari, No Strings, her incredible comeback.
I feel just lucky. That's the only word to describe it.
Karina Murari, No Strings, only on the Tennis Channel. Get the picture?
Let's continue our lesson on court with Jim on the overhead. He'll be talking about shot placement for both singles and doubles.
Well, so far we've been talking pretty much about how to hit an overhead, but now we're going to deal a little bit more with where to hit your overhead. I think there are two main kinds of targets. In yellow here, we've got our singles targets, and they're just two of them because most of the time an opponent is going to try to get somewhere back to the center of the court. So you're going to be wanting to move them out to the side and hit around them. And notice that the depth of these cones is not back by the baseline, but just up here a little bit behind the service line, so that even if you hit the ball a little bit deeper than you plan, you're going to keep it in. Also notice that they're not really right on the sideline, because this way, even if you hit the ball a little wider than you plan, you're going to get it in. Certainly if you hit it to this side, you're going to get it in. So what we want you to do is give yourself plenty of margin for error. So you're kind of famous for hitting targets. Let's see you hit that one right there. Good. One more. Now, that one went long. Usually what that means is you caught a little bit too much of the bottom of the ball. When you're inside that service court, it's okay to hit that ball a little bit above the equator. Behind the service line, generally hit the ball right on the nose. Okay, make sure you don't hit this one long. Whoa! Wow. Well, okay, let's move on to the other one. That's a great overhead, and that's a pinpoint accuracy, and you need to be able to do equally well on that side. Great shot. One more. Wonderful. Now, when you're playing doubles, you got a little more room. We add another target because here in the center, a lot of times what you're doing by going there is splitting the seam between the two coverages. I got an opponent, I got a partner over here and one over here. And sometimes there's some doubt about who covers that ball if you just go straight down the center, and I think that's a good place to go early in a match. Let's see you go there. Okay, now, let's say that we start covering the middle pretty well. Now you want to split it wide. Again, notice the doubles target is not even out in the alley, but if you miss a little wide of your target, you've still got 4.5 feet in that alley to miss by and still keep the ball in. Go deuce court, go add court. Now I want to see a little more pronation. That ball went pretty deep. Now again, it stayed in, but I want to see you wrap your racket a little bit more around the left side of the ball. That's great. And sometimes you can actually get a ball to go out the side fence. Now occasionally you've got the problem of deciding whether you can hit the ball on a fly or on a bounce. When do you think you'd let it bounce?
I let it bounce if it's really, really high.
Okay, here we go. There's a high one. You got nothing to lose by letting it bounce because you're not going to have to back up much. Great. And you're going to hit the same shot. It's like hitting a serve from inside the baseline. You're going to probably be able to hit an ace. Let me give you one more and just go the other way. Real short. Pound it. Exactly. Now, sometimes I'm going to be lucky enough to be able to get that ball out over your head. I like to see you try to get an overhead out of that shot, even if one of your alternatives would simply be to go back and hit a defensive lob. So let's say that I give you this shot. Let it bounce. See if you can get an overhead out of that. Now you're still on offense.
Right.
And one other consideration that we need to talk about is that when you're playing doubles, which player do you hit to? Maybe you hit to the weaker player, but let's say that you've got one player up and the other player back. Where are you going to hit your overhead?
I'm going to hit to the person closest to me.
Why?
Because I have less reaction time.
Okay, exactly. So whoever you have to hit to, you want to give as little time to react to your shot as possible. So let's say, do not hit honorable instructor. I'm going to give you this shot here. Imagine my partner's back there. I want you to go toward my side of the court, not necessarily at me. Okay, and that way I have very little chance to react. My partner may be able to run it down. So what we're really saying here is that we want you to be aggressive and we want you to know exactly where you're going to hit, but we don't want you to feel like you've got to hit the ball too close to the lines to be effective.
There's probably no shot in tennis that is more exhilarating for players to possess than an overhead smash. Yet for some players, it can be one of the most discouraging shots when missed. As we watch the professional players, there are certain fundamentals that are consistent. Quick preparation is critical for ensuring good positioning. Players will immediately turn sideways, which establishes their source of power and makes it easier to move back for the shot. It is important to get behind the ball so that when extending up to the contact point, the ball can be hit with a fully extended hitting arm. Backswing for players will vary, but it is important for the hitting arm to get into a throwing position similar to the serve so that the racket can gain maximum acceleration as it moves forward and upward towards the ball. When properly executed, there is a complete transfer of movement from the legs, hip, trunk, shoulder, elbow, forearm, wrist, and racket head. Players will use their non-hitting arm to track the ball, and this helps keep the head up and forward shoulder up. Occasionally, players will let the ball bounce because of circumstances, but just remember, placement is equally as important as power. Don't go away. You don't want to miss the drills we have coming up after these short messages.
Need more tennis? How about 24/7? ATPtennis.com. News that's hot, on and off the court. Want draws, scores, and player profiles? It's all there. Find TV times and links to tournaments worldwide. Want some courtside seats? Or how about ATP equipment, publications, or apparel? It's just a click away at ATPtennis.com. It's ATP Tennis, anytime you want it, 24/7.
From first serves to match points, from singles to mixed doubles. Whatever your stage in the game, there's always room to improve. It's easy when you take a lesson from a USPTA certified teaching pro. They stay on the cutting edge of teaching and playing as members of the world's most respected organization of tennis teachers. So get better, faster. Contact the U.S. Professional Tennis Association to find a certified pro near you.
When playing tennis, there are three basic elements of the game that you must always remember. Move your feet. Keep your eye on the ball. And always play with Pro Pen. Pro Pen tennis ball. It's the only ball that matters.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month with a look at the life and times of Arthur Ashe.
The Tennis Center, in my mind, is really a means of socializing the youth who use it to help build character, self-confidence, enhance their self-image. It specifically is not necessarily in place to produce professional players or even to win scholarships. If one does that, fine, but certainly the lessons that one can learn playing an individual sport like tennis, where once play starts, there are no substitutions, no timeouts, no coaching. Those are very solid life lessons that anyone would do well to learn. That's what you can learn at the Arthur Ashe Youth Tennis Center.
The Tennis Channel celebrates Black History Month by honoring tennis legend Arthur Ashe.
We're back on court at the Houston Racket Club. Let's continue our overhead lesson with Jim.
Well, so far we've talked a little bit about technique and how you hit the ball. And then we've also talked a little bit about where you hit the ball. We set out our little targets. And now it's important that we give you some ways that you can practice. So one of my favorite drills is for you to come in all the way to the net so that you can touch the net. The idea here is that you, when I lob over your head, are going to be hitting from a little bit closer to the net than you would normally hit for a jump overhead. But we want you to hit on the move. You want to take into account any wind or any other factor like that. And I'm going to feed you some balls, and between each hit, come back in, touch the net. Okay, I'm going to try to put the ball just out of your reach. Good job. Come on back in. Make that recover quick so you're coming right back into good volley position. Good job. Now that ball was a little bit deep, and if you ever have to, don't be afraid to use a little sky hook, which may mean that you're hitting the ball on a fly, but not with a full overhead motion. Keep that wrist nice and loose, and for a good explosion and good balance. That's great. Okay, now another thing that we can do to kind of really make that idea of moving up and then moving back and trying to get back in position after you've hit an overhead real is I'm going to give you a high-low drill. And I'm going to give you a high one and then a low one, and your job now is to keep the ball from bouncing. So we'll do this on a double side. Start off, let's say you're at the net and I give you a volley. All right, now let's say my next shot is back over your head. Now come back in, get this ball on a fly. And another one. Back and up. Good shot, right on the line. That's great. You had to really move in on that one. Explode up. Good shot. Back in for the low, and one more. Out over your backhand. Out over your backhand. What are you going to do? That's great. Way to run around it, get it on an overhead. Now we can even make this into something that closely resembles a game. And we can keep score in this game. We start off with you with the ball, and you're going to feed me a ball, and on that first ball I'm going to lob. And after that we're going to play a point. And you can either win the point by making me miss, putting an overhead away, or I can win a point by making you miss, or getting a ball to bounce on your side. So the premium for you then is to get back in and don't let any balls bounce. Close in after you hit your overhead. Here comes the lob. Play it out. That's a great shot. Okay, give me another ball. I'm going to lob this next one. Play it out. Oh, that's tough. Come on back in. Oh, God, I thought I... Okay, so I would have won that point. I thought I had a bounce on you. Ball's up. Make the adjustment. One more. Adjust to the wind if necessary. Good shot. Okay. Now that kind of drill, as you can tell in a short amount of time, gives you a lot of exercise, so it's a great conditioner. But I think really what it does is it emphasizes the point that when you go back to hit an overhead, a lot of times you'll elicit a weak shot, and that closing in gives you the opportunity to maybe even get another overhead, but more importantly, be able to end the point when your next shot. There's one more contingency. So far, we've considered that you are going to be able to reach the ball on a fly, but if I hit a good enough lob, or let's say I hit a ball that's so high, especially on a windy day, you might want to let it bounce. But we're going to consider what you want to do in order to practice balls on the bounce. So this time, even if you could hit this one on a fly, let it bounce, get back behind it, and make a normal overhead. So your contact point is still up there at the top. What I like to see is that you've gotten far enough around it that you're actually still stepping in. Again. Step in. So again, your weight's going to end up on your left foot. Now, occasionally, I'm good enough with my lob that I actually move back. Pretend this time that you, even if you can reach this, that you cannot. Let it bounce, go back, hit an overhead. That's great. So you can hit an overhead if you need to from all the way back by the fence and still stay on offense. So our point here is that as an overheader, we want you to be the offensive player, whether you're taking it on a fly, whether you're taking it on a bounce, or even if you're back behind the baseline. Whoa.
Shirley, terrific shot. Looks like that overhead's really coming along. Jimmy, any additional comments you have for Shirley?
Realistically, I think that the overhead's the only shot you could possibly go through a whole tournament and not miss. If you were going to try to do that, what kinds of things do you think are most important for you to remember?
Well, I definitely work on the targeting, giving myself a cushion so I don't have to hit the line to actually make a winner. And then I'd also work on the point of contact, getting the ball at its highest point.
No, I think that sounds like good advice for all of us.
Great. Thanks to both of you. And thanks for joining us today on court with USPTA. local USPTA certified professional.
For everything tennis